Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. It's that time again. Everything you see is for sale as we're waking up with watches. tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, or sell. And I should mention, we are on a buying kick, paying the highest prices for single watches or entire collections since the founding of Watchbox in 2017. So if you want to sell a watch, reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Names, references, and prices of the watches you're about to see are in the description below. Let's jump straight in. It's summer, and summer means sports watches, and this is one of the best. Vacheron Constantin Overseas Chronograph Generation 2, possibly its most desirable iteration. This model features the steel case, 42mm, with the blue lacquer dial. Now, there's a little bit of a trick of the eye here, as the watch, at first glance, looks symmetrical, but it favors the chronograph minutes register, which makes sense. As you can see, the signature double date up at 12 o'clock of the first and second generation Overseas, much missed as it was a distinctive styling trait of these chronographs lost in the third series. Now you can see the case itself is also a bit more elegant than the third series in that it's thinner. One of the reasons is that there is no plinth underneath the bezel. The bezel applies straight to the hoods of the bezel and the lugs, making for a slimmer, more elegant timepiece that better splits the difference between a sports watch and a dress watch. Throw it on the wrist. My wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, wears it well. Alligator leather strap in matching navy blue. You can see the timepiece is impressively flat. Though 42mm suggests a Royal Oak offshore rival, in fact, it's more similar to the 41mm Royal Oak in terms of how it wears, perhaps even a little bit better, in that the lug profile actually juts down and around the wrist. Now the timepiece features a Frederic Piguet 1185 movement inside, double deployant clasp. It is a 150-meter water-resistant watch, which is 50 more than a Royal Oak offshore chrono. It also has a soft iron inner cage over the movement, which gives it 25,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetism. It is built much like a Rolex Milgauss. You can see the image of the Italian Navy training vessel Amerigo Vespucci on the back. That was the image basis for the ship, and the movement is adjusted in 5 positions, automatic, vertical clutch and column wheel with full integrated chronograph design and high horology 5-position adjustment with a 40-hour power reserve. This watch is everything you need for summer fun in one package, and being a Vacheron, it can always pull double duty as a dress watch. But let's say you want to go hardcore with the sports watch. Well, we up the ante with the Rolex Deepsea, and this is absolutely the latest spec and tech from dive watches at Rolex, as it represents the post-2018 Deepsea. You know, because just looking at it, you could see that there's that little Rolex crown between Swiss and made. Also, if you take a moment to gather the proportions of the lugs and the end links, you can see there's a better match, as it's now a 22mm lug spacing, so you don't have the pencil neck appearance of the original Deepsea where the lugs meet the bracelet. Now the timepiece, of course, is a high-end diver. Rolex tests these, all of them, to 125% of the rated depth before they leave Rolex. So this is not just boasting. The watch has been there. The bezel with a wonderful glide and ratchet, 120 clicks with a ceramic insert, and of course this is a 5.5mm thick sapphire sitting on a cylinder. You can see there's a little platform underneath. There's also an external piece of titanium, the case back, which is the only external titanium component on any Rolex watch, and it goes through the monoblock case. The cylinder, being sealed on each end, is compressed by the deep, only improving the strength of the seal. Helium escape valve perforating the cylinder on one side and the crown on the other side, otherwise hermetically sealed. Now this watch has a 3-day power reserve, up from 2 days of the previous Deepsea, and Rolex's best diving clasp. Of course, you've got the flip lock system, as you'd find on the Sea Dweller 43, and you've got glide lock, as you'd find on the Sea Dweller 43 in the sub, but you have a better version of it, as you can open it and adjust it up to 20mm in 2mm increments while it's still on your wrist, so you don't drop it in a marine environment. You get over 2 inches, or 50mm, of total adjustment here, and as you can see, this is the best clasp that Rolex makes. Over-engineered, yes, but also a little bit of a party favor and supremely practical, as the sizing adjustment is something you can use routinely as your wrist expands or contracts on hot or cold days, inactive or active periods. Throw it on my wrist, why not? 16 centimeters circumference, it wears better than in the past. A 16 centimeter circumference wrist would have been eaten alive by the first generation Deepsea, but this one just over 53mm from end link to end hand link is wearable. Not necessarily as a dress watch and not underneath the cuff, as it's still almost 18 millimeters thick, but it is not as broad across the wrist. It doesn't feel like a big pilot's watch anymore. Could I wear it? Absolutely, and it would be one hell of a weekend warrior accessory. Splitting the difference between a sports watch and a dress watch, well, that's long been the duty of the Rolex Day-Date, and this Oyster Perpetual Day-Date with a 2001 serial number is a 118239 in white gold, but it's not the white gold, though I enjoy it, that is the highlight right here. It is the dial, which is an explosive brown bronze metallic sunburst no longer offered in the white gold 36mm model. Now, the timepiece is the post-2000 later generation double quickset Day-Date, and you can see that because the lug hoods themselves are polished rather than satinated. You also have an upgraded President bracelet, all solid links, end links and center links. It's very robust. Throw it on the wrist, it's comfortable, it's wearable, it's thin, it's versatile. 100 meters water resistant with a robust Submariner-derived full bridge and free-sprung balance design. The watch is both water resistant and shock resistant. Double quick set for both the day and the date. And as you can see, if you want to watch for full-time wear, everywhere from the beach to the pool to the shower to the boardroom, this is going to be your option. A great way to get into Rolex with a timepiece that's underrated, if anything. And as a history dating back to the mid-1950s, this is one of the greats in the Rolex catalog. While the bracelet is officially the President, you can see why the watch is often described as the Rolex Presidential. Let's jump back to another big brand in sports watches, from Rolex to Omega. Blood rivals eternal, but there really is no Rolex equivalent to the watch in my hand, the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch. So named because, well, frankly, it and its descendants have been to space up to and including the moon. 42mm in stainless steel. This model is the upscale sapphire sandwich. Let's do a quick lume shot right here. As you can see, the timepiece has plenty of lume, including for the chronograph seconds hand. Now, there's a sapphire over the dial, and that distinguishes it from the standard Moonwatch, which has a plexiglass or a Hesselite thermoplastic. It also has a sapphire on the caseback, and you get a higher grade Omega 1863 movement, which features handsome mirrored and rounded bevels, as well as the replacement of the Delrin chronograph brake with conventional rhodium-plated brass component. 48-hour power reserve, 21/6 beat rate, manual wind. You can see it features a lateral clutch and cam system that actually makes it more shock resistant than the X33, so it's tough stuff in addition to being a genuinely good looking movement. I don't know how they do it, but the bridges here are as beautifully rounded and mirrored as though they were manually executed and finished. Now, it is an upscale piece. The sapphire on caseback and dial tells you that, but it's also the use of alligator leather rather than calfskin or textile for the strap, and a full deployant clasp rather than a pin buckle that set the sapphire sandwich apart as a higher end and perhaps slightly more aristocratic variant of the classical Moonwatch. On the wrist, still easy to wear, about 48mm lug to lug. It was gigantic by the standards of 1969. Today, it feels properly sized, and it still cuts a striking figure on a wrist of any size with a lovely high legibility dial. Oftentimes you say they don't make them like they used to. In this case, they make them a little bit better. Let's do another lume shot. I know you're probably wondering about the Deepsea, and I was remiss not to show you a lume shot of the Deepsea. We'll see how smart my iPhone is, if it's able to focus. And there we go, Rolex Chromolite Blue proprietary lume. The Deepsea giving you 3 hands loomed and a loomed pearl. By the way, the pearl on a Rolex bezel is capped by sapphire, so even that component is exhaustively engineered. Good job, Deepsea. Do you want to guess? How about the brand? If you said Omega, you're right. As you can see, the Diver 300mm features differential lume for the bezel as well as the minute hand, so you can read the difference at a glance. This is the 2019 model and maybe the best 2019 Omega. The Seamaster Diver 300mm black ceramic, titanium hardware, and black ceramic bezel insert, dial, as well as case. It's actually a no-date dial, and you can see it's different from the standard Diver 300mm in that the waves are raised, relieved, and polished instead of laser etched down into the dial. The standard base of this watch in the 42mm has a polished dial base with grooved waves. Here you can see the base itself is satinated and the waves are raised up. It's a lovely looking piece, 43 millimeters, 43.5 properly speaking. In ceramic and titanium, it wears light on the wrist. 300 meters water resistant. It does have a display case back, but on this NATO strap you can't quite see it. Bezel ratchet, quite good, the best yet for this class of watch from Omega. Sharp, precise, 120 clicks. You can line it up easily with the so-called Bond skeleton hands, a lovely reference to the Pierce Brosnan era of 007. It is a NATO strap, and you can see there is a display case back there, but it's covered by the NATO, but it's the world's best NATO. Even the strap minders here, which are metal, are Omega branded. It's a good-looking piece, a durable piece, and nicely matched to the watch. Of course, in black ceramic, the watch is remarkably scratch-tolerant and swirl-resistant. As I age as a watch collector, I become less and less tolerant of refinishings, scratches, and scuffs, and ceramic is just what the doctor ordered for that. If you ask, well, what if I fracture it? Well, if you're not the type to crack or shatter sapphires, you're not going to be the type to damage a ceramic case. That's the acid test. It's a self-test. Apply it honestly. You'll have the answer whether ceramic is for you. Now, speaking of tough stuff and watches built accordingly, some folks want a daily driver that's able to take a beating, but they don't want to slum it with a low-value quartz watch. G-Shock, Timex Ironman, they're fun, but you want a mechanical timepiece for your several $100 investment in daily use, and that's exactly what you get with this 2020 release. Seiko SBDC-091, 39.5 millimeters in stainless steel. It is a manufacturer automatic movement watch, 70-hour power reserve. 2006 was the first year for the Alpinist collection, and you can see this timepiece is faithful to that heritage. An unusual use of a green sunburst dial with a compass rose bidirectional bezel in conjunction with the location of the sun in the hour hand, north or southern hemisphere. You can use the compass rose bezel to gauge north or south. The watch also features lovely cathedral hands, uncommon on a non-aviator sports watch, and handsome yellow gold plated indices as well as hours. It's a truly good looking watch. It's also blessed with a manufacturer movement. The Seiko 6R35, hacking seconds, quick set date, 21.6 beat rate, and again 70 hours of power reserve. All of this water resistant down to 20 meters. So you can have a serviceable mechanical watch that costs only a few $100s from a truly great integrated manufacturer that builds everything from the sapphire to the pivot stones to the shock protection right down to the oils used in this watch. It even comes with upscale refinements like a trigger deployment clasp, no pin buckle here, and rather than calfskin or a textile or even rubber, you get an alligator leather strap. 39.5 millimeters again. The watch has a graceful case with a combination of high polish and satin for contrast, and on the wrist it looks fantastic. A handsome watch that looks multiples its price. It's also a fun way to enjoy a watch without getting hugely invested in a watch. So whether this is your daily driver, your rough stuff watch, or perhaps the start of a mechanical watch collection, this is a timepiece that satisfies on every level. From one extreme to the other, let's talk about Grand Seiko, a 20-piece platinum limited edition from 2018. This is the flagship of the much-loved Zuri dials. 44 GS case, that familiar polyhedron Zaratsu tin plate black polished to a mirror shine. It is a hand-finished watch inside and outside with the hand-finished case, 40 millimeters in diameter, and a dial that features diamond-faceted and hand-polished hands as well as indices. Let me remove the fingerprints here. You could see just how mirrored and truly black the polish is on those hands, with the indices sparkling like cut gems and the so-called shiny painting inspired or Zuri dial. Now you're getting a hot rod spring drive here. It's the 9R15. So where a standard spring drive is accurate to within 15 seconds a month, this one, as you can see from the yellow gold medallion in the rotor, is a special spring drive, plus or minus 10 seconds a month rather than 15 seconds a month for standard. So just to be clear, because I might have confused that before, 15 seconds a month is standard spring drive, 10 seconds a month is what you get right here. It's an automatic, it's a power reserve, it's a 3-day autonomy. It is a very impressive watch, and as you can see, it features a slow scrolling seconds hand. No stops, no staggers, no jumps, no beats. It never slows down or speeds up. It is incredibly regular and distinctive of the spring drive system, which uses a unidirectional governing wheel, all spring energy, no motors, no capacitors, no batteries. This limited edition of 20 is a dress watch. Yes, it is a sophisticated complication. a machine, the automatic spring drive, that took from 1977 to 2005 to realize. That's the automatic spring drive. And the watch is somehow 100 meters water resistant. The clasp is unusual in that it's made of platinum, and rather than using white gold for the swing arm, Grand Seiko uses the unheard of PT900 for the more fragile and thinner swing arm component, a harder version of platinum, so you get a full platinum clasp. For the watch on the wrist, it is very substantial. You do feel all that platinum clasp and case, but it's also relatively constrained lug to lug, so it wears well on a small wrist. Mechanically exceptional, aesthetically equally. A timepiece of extraordinary rarity with only 20 made. This is the flagship of the Kirazuris, and a Grail watch level Grand Seiko timepiece. That said, when I ask folks, they tell me this is the Kirazuri that they love most. This is the SBGA 387. The one you just saw was the SBGA 385. This is a 558 piece, 44 GS case, full bracelet stainless steel version of the 2018 US market limited editions known as the Kirazuri Trio. You can see this dial features a little bit more differentiation about its rusticated patches, textures, and tones because of the blue coloration. You have the same degree of hand-finished dial furniture, and of course with spring drive, this one 15 seconds accurate each month, and a highly water resistant case. You've also got that swimmability here on the bracelet. It's that much more likely to make it into the pool or the surf. Now this is a hand finished watch inside and out for a lot less than $10,000, making it a highly desirable timepiece for fans of high horology, which I always like to define as horology, luxury horology, that involves handcraft or hand adjustment. That's in opposition to what I define as luxury horology, a watch that can be serviced and which has a permanent aftermarket. Those are personal definitions, but I think they hold up well. Now the watch does feature a spring drive movement, same as the SPGA 385 that you can see internally. It looks the same, hacking seconds in a quick set date with a 3-day power reserve and a power reserve indicator on the dial. That 44 GS case shape with many different facets as well as curves, satin finish, and polish is inspired by the 1967 44 GS, so this is a heritage case that has been with Grand Seiko for a long time and to good effect. It's one of their few true design icons. They're generally known for engineering. While I said that the day-date splits the difference between a Rolex dress watch and a sports watch, the Cellini Moonphase of 2017 is a true dress watch through and through. 39 millimeters in red gold, not pink, not rose. This reference 50535 was the first Rolex Moonphase watch since the 1950s and caused quite a stir when launched. Unusually, it uses a full deployant clasp, a feature rarely seen on Rolex Cellini models, and you can see that the bezel is double-stepped with a coined flank and then a lovely domed rump. It's a good-looking dial. There's a ton of textural and tonal contrast. As you can see, there's a blued lunette-style pointer indicator for the date. There is a white lacquered dial base, rose gold hands, Rolex crown, and split indices. Then you've got a Moonphase with a Cosmos made of blue enamel. Rolex received a patent for that enameling process. And then a small piece of meteorite for the moon itself with the Widmanstätten oxidation and stabilization create those lovely iron oxidized almost crystalline patterns. The watch does feature a unique caliber 3195, 48-hour power reserve, chronometer certified, only used in this model and exclusive to it. It's a great looking piece on the wrist because it's short across the wrist. You feel like there's a lot of gold there, and there is because of the deployant clasp and the solid case back. So Rolex is not shorting you the precious metal. One of my favorite features here is the mobile hour hand, which allows you to move the hour hand independently. Note the date jumps forward or backwards as you travel, and everything continues ticking along, minutes, seconds, and Moonphase. So this is great for travelers, a real fun piece from Rolex that has a lot more color and character than you expect. And also, if you want a dress watch that's not just another Calatrava, I can't think of a better way to get into a Rolex that, if anything, is underrated and definitely not the one your friends are going to have. Let's talk about an independent brand, and a great one. This is the H. Moser Endeavour Perpetual, a timepiece with a perpetual calendar designed by HCI member Andreas Streller, who's known for minimalist and hidden complications. This Endeavour Perpetual calendar is 40.8 millimeters in white gold. And let's talk about the case first, because we really need to. The Endeavour case is extravagant, scalloped and black polished recesses under the lug's vertical satin finish on its flank. You can see the bezel is thin 9 and 3 o'clock, but then larger, broader, and rounded at 12 and 6, almost as though it were a piece of molten metal drawn out and then flash frozen. Turn it on its reverse side, you can see the case back is cambered, and so is the sapphire. Neither cheap nor easy to do. Roll it around and note the attention to detail, as there's a little kerf under the crown so you can dig your nail in for adjustments. On the dial side, white gold indices and hands with a sunburst silver. Power reserve indicator, 7 days rated. It will run for 9. In fact, 12 hours corresponding to 12 months. You have the little index at center indicating that it is March 1st. But here's the thing. The Andreas Streller Perpetual Calendar system is bidirectional. Pull the crown out all the way and you hack the seconds, but in the intermediate position you could set the calendar in either direction. Now it's February 28th, now it's March 1st. Note the superimposed oversized date discs. By using two and superimposing them, you can have this oversized date without having an oversized watch. The timepiece features caliber HMC 341. Moser of Schaffhausen is the other integrated manufacturer of Schaffhausen. I need not announce the first, but they only make 1,500 watches a year, and this movement is all in-house, right down to the balance, the hairspring, the regulator, and the escapement. Moser making everything. Note the double-crested Côte de Genève across the bridges, a Moser specialty. You have jewels set in screw-fixed chaton in a three-quarter style bridge, evocative of Lange, but only because Lange and Moser are both referencing the same era, pocket watch manufacture in the 19th century. The balance is free-sprung with a full bridge for shock resistance, beats away at 18,000. The escapement is solid gold, 14 karat, to reduce parasitic drag and improve power reserve. Not only does the watch feature a solid gold escapement, but the whole balance and escapement lifts out in one piece so it can quickly be replaced during service in Schaffhausen. 2 barrels, 7-day chronometric power reserve, and you'll note small flourishes like the pocket watch style click and click spring. This is an impressive machine, impressively finished and impressively engineered. And by the way, you'll note the leap year indicator for the perpetual calendar is visible on the case back. Throw it on the wrist, and it's short lug to lug. There's also the curvature of the case back, so it wears comfortably on a small wrist. You do feel that there's a lot of metal, but it's not overly thick, nor is it remarkably flared at the edge of the lugs, as the lugs turn almost vertically down from the case band, meaning even a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference will wear this one comfortably and fashionably. There is a full gold deployment, as you can see, nicely polished, white gold watch, white gold clasp, and you can see the attention to detail is excellent with the Moser logo engraved, satin finish on the top, and then a polished bevel that runs all the way around the buckle with twin trigger release. This timepiece is outstanding, and again, Moser building 1,500 pieces a year. I like to call them the German Swiss FP Journe. They are that innovative, exclusive, and desirable. They're also that distinctive to the point that they need not put their marquee or logo on the dial to communicate origin. You know from that funky blue fumet and the classic scalloped lugs, the kudu strap, and the somewhat eccentric purity aesthetic that this is a Moser watch. It's the reason people love Moser. It is the German-Swiss watch brand that can crack a smile. This is the 100-piece limited edition 39mm white gold Venturer Small Seconds Purity. The dial so named because it is minimally adorned. It doesn't even say Swiss made. With Moser, you know it. Throw it on the wrist, it's comfortable, it's flat, and a big chunk of the thickness is actually the domed sapphire, so it sits easily underneath the cuff. Very comfortable. It has those same sharply downturned lugs as the Endeavour, and it has a kudu strap, which has a wonderful aged and distressed look to it, even when it's brand new. And if, like me, you need to open a new window and Google kudu to see what that animal looks like, well, then you understand the appeal of this brand. They are full of surprises. Even the buckle is nice, with a little recess for the pin. The pin is polished, the top of the buckle is satin, the flank is satin, and there's a bevel that runs all the way around. Turn the watch over, and you can see we have the HMC 232 movement. A lot to love here. It's sort of a miniature of the 341 we saw before, as you have an overcoil hairspring, a free-sprung full bridge balance beaten away at 18,000. You have a case-back power reserve indicator, and there's a 3-day power reserve manually wound. It has hacking seconds, so rest assured all of the expected refinements are present. What's not present is clutter. This is a glorious and minimalist way to build a dress watch. It has the spirit and the sense of joie de vivre that you expect of a sports watch, but with the elegance of a dress watch. And you can see no expense spared with those same black polished and concave lugs and the vertical satin finish on the side with the domed and polished bezel abutting a bubble-like sapphire. This watch has character. But since we're speaking of dress watches, let's speak of a dress watch from a group brand that operates rather like an independent, and though owned by Richemont, a Lange und Söhne of Saxony does feel like an independent in the spirit, both of its design and of its engineering. I'm going to throw finishing in there too, because all of us understand watching this show that Lange should be part of the Holy Trinity. It needs to be a quad. The quartet, joined by the one German member that has fought its way into that company. And this watch right here, launched in 2010, is the Lange und Söhne Richard Lange Referenzuhr, a timepiece that is evocative of vintage chronometer pocket watches and part of the Richard Lange collection with the radially arrayed Roman numerals. It features a lovely ruthenium-coated dial and a platinum case 40.5 millimeters in diameter. The watch fits easily and it's substantial, with the dial base itself made of sterling silver, the case of platinum, and a feature rarely seen on Lange watches, a full deploying clasp in matching platinum. Generally, they are on pin buckles. Turn it over. There's a gorgeous caliber L41-2. The L41-2 was made specifically for this watch. It features a secondary bridge for an elaborate hacking mechanism, so the watch can be set precisely. It is a manual wind with a glorious 3/4 style bridge, and as you can see, jewels set in chaton as on the Moser, but frankly with a higher standard of finish even than the Moser, as we have both fired blue kiln oxidized screws and black polished case clamp screws, black polished swan's neck, black polished cover for the escape wheel, and black polished posts that are used to locate the 3/4 style bridge. There is mirrored anglage of the highest grade on the edge of every bridge. Engine turning on the base plate, you can see the freehand engraving of the balance cock. Now the watch includes German silver bridges, which is a nickel copper zinc alloy German silver, with the copper giving it that golden hue, with glasuta stripes, not Côte de Genève because we're in Germany here, across the bridges. This watch is adjusted in 5 positions. I should have mentioned with the Moser, that Endeavour was adjusted in 6 positions, so one-upping Lange in one regard, but make no mistake, Lange finish is finer, and I would go so far as to say the finest of any watch in this program. But sometimes, and I regret to inform Mies van der Rohe, more is more. That whole notion that less is more kind of falls by the wayside when you see a movement like this. That is as good as it gets. And with Lange, 41 millimeters in platinum will wear on just about any wrist. 41 is big for a Lange, but reasonably sized for a complex complication. And launched in 2006, the Datograph Perpetual is a perpetual calendar Moonphase, and yes, flyback chronograph. Manual wind with an 18K beat rate. It features a sterling silver dial as with the Referenzuhr, but it also has a solid gold Moonphase disc, double-digit date, and it has a wonderful system that allows you to step all of the perpetual calendar indications in sequence. If you fall a few days behind, you can catch up by adjusting everything in sequence without anything falling behind, including the Moonphase. A very logical and, I have to say, much appreciated refinement. Practical too. 41 millimeters is wearable, and with the king of complications in the chronograph, a practical complication in the perpetual calendar, and a romantic complication in the Moonphase, this watch has all bases covered, but it's also loomed. It's not explosively loomed, but you don't necessarily expect a dress complication to be this visible at night. Turn it all over, it gets even better on the caseback. Caliber L951. It's based on the standard Datograph, but with enhancements. Most of what you see on the reverse side, though, is standard fare for the Datograph. A fully jeweled lateral clutch, note multiple interior beveled angles inside the lateral clutch, a black polished crenellated column wheel, and of course we have that gorgeous balance wheel beaten away at a lazy 18K with an overcoil hairspring 5-position adjustment. Note you can look diagonally through this movement, not just from the top, but also through it from different angles. It truly is like a forest canopy of machined and hand-finished metal on your wrist. The timepiece is not excessively large, though, with a full platinum case, a silver dial, and a platinum buckle. There's a lot of precious metal here, and a lot to love. It's not excessively large, and with the domed bezel, it will fit underneath the cuff. It's a spectacular piece and an iconic watch from Lange. More is more, you better believe. A Datograph is good. A Datograph Perpetual is better. Speaking of independence, let's speak of one that is a perpetual Best Buy pre-owned. Arnold Son is the brand name associated with the full manufacture out of Le Chaux-de-Fonds, La Joux-Perret. La Joux-Perret is supported by citizen watch money, which means unlike most independents, there's solid financial backing behind Arnold & Son to service the watches and provide parts forever. This model, the UTTE 42mm in palladium, was launched in 2013. It's a very special piece because it is one of the thinnest tourbillon watches available. 8.7mm thick, the watch is also remarkably compact, only about 46mm lug to lug in spite of being a 42mm diameter. Now the watch has a movement caliber 8200 with a glorious hand finished, and those mirrored bevels, by the way, are as good as it gets in the business. I'm going to try to get super close. You could see that the bevels are rounded, mirrored, and hand finished. These are not machined edges. There are black polished screws, and as you can see, abrasive wheel laid Côte de Genève. You know because they're darker on one side and lighter on the other. There's a double solar spiral finishing on each of the ratchet wheels. That's laid down by hands, and then all of the screws are as beautifully black polished as in any Patek. By the way, 80-hour power reserve, 14mm tourbillon carriage, an extraordinary large tourbillon, so it's easy to see it, and being a flying tourbillon, there's no upper bridge to block your view. Now we'll start winding. I wanted you to be able to see the tourbillon clearly at a halt. Now pirouetting and underway, you can see the beauty of the self-propelled and, of course, single-side pivoted tourbillon carriage. Being 14mm in diameter, it's big, it's bold, it's handsome, and it counterbalances the time. There are 3 different finishes with a granular, almost sandpaper-like rustication of the primary dial, a handsome satination, longitudinally and circumferentially of the track outboard, and then there's a lovely frosted silver finish with a handsome metallic polish for the hours and the minutes. A truly special watch from an independent that doesn't get nearly enough credit for doing almost everything right. This is one of the few palladium watches you will ever encounter, and if you want to buy a precious metal tourbillon for well under $20,000, this is the way to get into it. Heck, it even has an extended power reserve in spite of a movement that's only 2.97mm thick. An extraordinary watch close to record-setting status and beautiful in every regard, hand-finished inside and out from a great integrated manufacturer. This is not a branding effort. If anything, Arnold & Son needs better marketing. Really, this product with Richard Mille's marketing would conquer the world. But between us, it's a best-kept secret. But in the world of integrated manufacturers, one name stands above the rest. The watchmaker's watchmaker, La Grande Maison of the Vallée de Joux, Jaeger-LeCoultre. Since 1833, building watches and movements, it is the largest movement source inside of Richemont, which is one reason why this Master 8 Days features a movement that's probably better known from its use in a series of 8-day Panerai Radiomir. If you're familiar with the 190, the 197, and the 198, you will recognize this 8-day manual wind caliber 877. This is JLC's version of it, however, so it has been through the Master 1000 hours control. Exceptionally accurate, tough, and I should mention, originally designed for the 70th anniversary reverso. This is a true high horology movement with an explosive Côte de Soleil sunburst set of stripes radiating out from the balance. Now on the dial side, you have the power reserve indicator, which winds speedily as 55 turns will fully energize this watch. You have blackened and, I should note, loomed and half-frosted alpha hands at center for high contrast against the silver sunburst base. You have an oversized double-digit date. This is the second one patented by JLC. The first one and its patent were gifted to Lange when Lange was founded. There is a day-night indicator. As you can see, the dial is actually quite nicely loomed. We'll do a quick loom shot here. As you can see, quite reasonable for a dress watch and easy to read. This is a timepiece that is 41 millimeters in stainless steel and thus practical for daily use. It's also thin in profile and equipped with a full deployment feature. Rolex, again, only includes on the premium complicated precious metal Cellinis, so JLC giving you a real piece of value here. A full clasp on a steel watch. High horology, you better believe it, and a watch you can pick up and wind one day a week if you do want to cycle it through a collection. A lot of us watching this show own more than one watch. I know, shocking, but it's true. We reach the end. And the end, in this instance, is awfully impressive. Launched in 2016, this is Max Büsser's Ode to Motorsports, the HM8 Can-Am, named after the Sports Car Club of America's Can-Am Canadian-American Challenge Cup that ran from 1966 to 1987. The original series included competitors from Lola, McLaren, Porsche, Chaparral, Shadow, and more. Famed for speed and danger, the imagery of motorsports captured in this watch in several different ways. First, the design. Can-Am was at its peak during the 1970s, and during that period, watches like the Amida Digitrend and the Girard-Perregaux casquette pioneered the driver's watch paradigm. The idea that a watch worn on the wrist would be viewed at an angle while your hand was on the wheel. That inspired the HM10 and the HM5. The aesthetic here has been carried over into the Can-Am, but Max has gone farther. As you can see, the dashboard-like display, which includes both a jumping hour and a scrolling minute. Let me demonstrate how that works right there. It includes a small cyan index, so you read the minutes, the scrolling minutes, exactly as you would read an automotive dashboard instrument. The watch also features black polished titanium bars that are designed to evoke the roll cages of particularly the open cockpit Can-Am cars of the 1970s. Now you can see the MB&F Battle Axe winding rotor over a Girard-Perregaux 3000 high horology base. The design of this watch by Eric Giroux and Through the Looking Glass, his company. He's one of the great watch designers of our time and a frequent friend and collaborator of MB&F. You can see the articulated suspension inspired hinge style lug, and the watch is 51.5 millimeters long by approximately 49 millimeters wide, so it effectively wears square on the wrist. There are many sapphires on this watch. The automotive imagery continues on the case bottom, where you can see strakes that look almost like the castings of automotive valve covers. And you can see that the watch is composed of both white gold and titanium. Both materials are used and hand finished. There is a thick sapphire that sits over the winding system, and you can see from almost every angle this watch is open and transparent, sports roadster style, like the great Mark Donohue driven Roger Penske Porsche 917 open cockpit cars that competed with over 1,000 horsepower in Can-Am. Automatic winding with the GP base. It's an awesome watch that also features loom, though I've had trouble charging it up in my studio, so I'm not going to do a loom shot. This piece is extraordinary, and despite its imposing stance, it's easy to wear and it's easy to read. Comfortable and hand-finished inside and out. This is from a brand that makes a few hundred pieces a year, and that includes their clocks as well as their legacy machines. This watch is extraordinary in every regard, and if you love cars, if you love motorsports, if you love history, and above all, if you love watches and horological independence, you're gonna love this HM8 Can-Am. Remember guys, names, references, and of course prices are in the description below. But I want to make your watch my watch. See your watch on this show and sell us individual watches or full collections. We are buying and motivated. Reach out directly to tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Guys, thanks so much. Be well, have fun. Time out, Tim out. Thanks for logging on.